Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is the ones written in the book of life are secure. And pretty much this lesson comes through the inspiration of a video that Elder Pastor had told me about, which he just finished doing, video, and he hit part of this IUIC fact check. Bishop Nathaniel of IUIC, former deacons, he does not want you to hear from. And pretty much, I just wanted to address a couple of points in here. I mean, this video is like 3 hours long. There's other videos that are even longer than that. So you have to watch them piecemeal, from time to time, and, gather, what they're saying and pretty much sift it through the scriptures. And I just want to address something that, Deacon Asaph said which I'm going to play, in a minute. And one thing that the individual that was speaking had said, that was, introducing this clip that he's about to play. He said not too long after this, I believe, because when I first watched this video, I watched about 17 minutes of it and some change. And within that time frame, he had mentioned in here about the different splits and about the biggest camp was the 12 tribes of Israel, something like that. And then he mentioned that we left King Masha, which that is not true. We did not leave the king. We were kicked out of the house of David, but we were still going to his home and he would meet us outside. We would go to the park and go chop it up with the king. Actually, Elder Pastor, we were just sitting there listening, So we were still seeing the king after we got kicked out of, the house of David. So I don't know if he knew about that, or what the case was, but we did not leave the king. We were with the king even pretty much to his death, because we went to go visit him a couple of times in the hospital when he was in the hospital. And Elder Pastor went there pretty much all the way until damn near to the king's death. I'm not sure, if 1 week he went and then maybe a couple of days later he passed away, or, however it went. But I know that he was there more than we were. But we actually, the Connecticut camp, we actually were at the king's bedside while he was in the hospital, and we were actually seeing him prior to him going into the hospital, because them devils, Nathaniel, your asshole, what we call him, Yasha, Rahab, all them demons, they had the king riding around in the middle of winter with a starter jacket with no heat in his truck, and he had a caravan type. Had no heat in there. They couldn't even fix the king's heater, the heating core, which we didn't know about it. Otherwise, we would have helped him out however we could, So they had him riding around like that in the middle of winter, at his age. Show you how much love them demons have. So we never left the king, just so you could know, I mean, like I said, I don't know if he knew of that, but I'm telling you right now, we never left the king. When we got kicked out, that's why we were no longer around the king. When we got kicked out of the house of David wickedly, may I add, which is scriptural that they would do that to us, we were still seeing the king, as Elder Pastor mentioned it, on the low. We were going to his home. He would come out. We would take a walk down the street. There was a park not too far from him, and we would go see him. Pastor would see him more than we would, of course, but we actually seen him. We actually spoke with him, and we actually went to his bedside in the hospital when he was in the hospital about to pass, about the transition back to the spirit world. And I remember one day when we went a couple of times, but one day when we went, I was upset because they had the covers, showing his thigh. They didn't cover him up. The cover was up and it was showing his thigh. So I went over there and pulled it down. I was upset, that they had him like that. So don't tell us that we forsook the king or we left the king or however you stated it. We did not leave the king. We got kicked out, but we were still going to see him, after we got kicked out. And we were at his bedside, which I can't say the same for the rest of them other guys that so-called knew him. I don't know who went to his bedside, who went to see him. I wasn't there every day, but when I was there, I didn't see any of them guys. But I know others had went to go see him. So I just wanted to say that right off the cuff. So with that being said, let me play this part of this clip so you can hear what Deacon Asaph was. Deacon Asaph, and you're turning out to be a real demon. You're turning out to be a twofold the child of hell than Nathaniel, Bishop Nathaniel. But anyways, let's get to it.
That's what they are. They're a training simulator for the Israelites right now. And the Most High is trying to see who's going to learn, who's going to rise up and come to greatness. And that's why it says in Revelations that your name can be blotted out of the book. Your name is written in the book, okay? And you're here, but the Most High is like, scratch this Negro out. He's wicked as hell.
You heard what he said. He said your name could be scratched out of the book of life. We'll show you he doesn't know the scriptures, even though the Yahushua said something to that extent, but that's not what he meant. Because when you read this precept here, that's like an admonition, because the elect will not fall away. The ones that are a part of the elect will not fall away. They will make it all the way to the end. Why? Because they were sealed before the foundation of the earth, which shows you these guys don't know the scriptures. They err not knowing the scriptures, and they jumble up scriptures. Just like in the same chapter, they mangled the part, I believe that's in verse 12, where it speaks about the new name of the Lord. And they'll say, see, we don't know the name because it has a new name. And let's say if that was the case, which the word new there is kainos, which just means refreshed, because it would be brought back to our memory because we lost it. But let's say it was a new name. What name was left for us to call upon to receive salvation? And the name is Yahushua HaMashiach of Nazareth, the Most High's son, Yahweh's son. So we have the name. So these guys take scriptures and mangle them. And there's several other precepts that I could think of that they mangle because they have no understanding, because they got a hard on for denying the names of Yahweh and Yahushua. Yahushua said, if you deny me before men, I will deny you before the Father. And the scriptures say that Yahushua cannot deny himself. But anyway, let's read this precept and let's give the understanding. It says, he that overcometh, the word here, the main point here is what? To overcome. He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. Obviously, if you don't overcome, if you don't make it to the end, what happens? You are not part of the elect. You will not make it. So just off of the beginning of what he's saying, he's telling us that to overcome. In the previous chapter, he said, that which you have, hold fast till I come. It says, the same shall, I don't know if y'all were able to hear, what he actually said. But if you didn't, I didn't put this in the description box because I don't typically put, sometimes I don't really put, other people's videos in the description box, but I just put it in the comment section of the live chat. So in case you wanted to hear it for yourself, knock yourself out. So right off the cuff, he's saying, he that overcometh. So we know that the elect have been sealed before the foundation of the earth, and they will overcome. None of the elect will be lost. Not one. And if the Most High, Yahweh B'Shem Shai, wrote the elect into the book of life to be delivered from the foundation of the world, or before the world was even created, they are not going to be removed out of that position. Let's go real quick to the book of, I hope that it comes back, just a precept that came to mind. Just bear with me 1 second. There was a precept that just came to mind. It just escaped me for the moment. Barakateh Halbashim Al Shai came back. Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 4. It says, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. Right, because the elect have a special ingredient in them that is not going to allow them to go, even though they Lord's will we be a part of the elect, but I'll say it like this, even though the elect will go off on certain things, but it's what comes out of their mouth that is the main factor. That's what the scriptures say about the 144,000. It said that in whose spirit or in whose mouth was no guile. It didn't say nothing about the flesh because his flesh is corruptible, but it said in whose mouth is no guile. So it goes on to say, having what? Predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yahushua to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. So this is what? A predestination to salvation. So the elect will not fall away. The elect will not be blotted out of the book of life. Unlike what this guy here, Deacon Asaph is saying. It says, he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, because that's part of it, which means purity. You could read about that in different chapters, and one of the main chapters you could read about it is in the book of, I believe Revelation 6 is one, but definitely Revelation 19 from the first verse down. All right, it says, and I will not blot his Salakia, let me read it again. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life. Why? Because he overcame. He will not be blotted out of the book of life. Now, if you have an individual that happens to come into the truth and he does the works, but then he stops doing the works, guess what? He wasn't a part of the ones to endure to the end. That's the bottom line. There was another precept that came to mind. Salakia. Barakateh, how about Shem Al Shai? See, we rely totally on the Spirit. Jude chapter 1 verse 4. It says, for there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation. So just like you have elect to be saved, you also have elect to be destroyed. And that's just the bottom line. And that's one of the hard, bitter parts of this truth, is that you understand that men come into this thing, no matter how long they've been in it, that they're going to go so far and then fall away. This is all part of it. It says, ungodly men turning the grace of our power into lasciviousness and denying the only Lord power and our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. And how are some of these guys doing that? Some of them turn away completely, but some of them start changing the doctrine. And the main thing that they do is take away the names of Yahweh and Yahushua. That's a main red flag right there when you start seeing that. Now, I was going to save this for later, but let's get it now. 1 John 2 and 19. They went out from us, but they were not of us. Why? Because they were men crept in unawares. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us. Now, what does it mean? They would no doubt have continued with us. In other words, does that mean that if you're a part of a group and you leave that group, that you're no longer a part of the elect? No. Because by that reasoning, then Barnabas wasn't a man of the Lord. Because didn't him and Paul have a fallout? And it was so intense that they separated from each other. You never really hear about Barnabas anymore. But does that mean that Barnabas fell out? No. He kept doing the work. But obviously, what the Lord wanted us to focus on was the acts of the apostles that followed Yahushua, and the one that came after, and the works of the apostle Paul. This is what we needed. We didn't need everything to be written down from all these different books of, this particular prophet and that particular prophet. What we have is what we needed to get to salvation. It says, but they went out that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us, because what did they do? They turned their back on the Lord. They didn't turn it, or because these guys are acting like if you turn your back on them, that you're turning your back on the Lord. But if you're still teaching the same thing you were taught, and you're still bringing out, the truth and holding on to those names, in the hopes to be delivered, then you might just be a part of the elect. But now if you fall away and you start changing the doctrine, you start taking away the names, you start doing things like that, that's what this is talking about. Because you did have men that taught in the name of the Lord but didn't follow the Lord. And what did the Lord tell the disciples? No, don't forbid him. He that is not against me is with me. You see? But sometimes that's going to happen. Men are going to have contentions among themselves to split apart because you don't know why that's happening. And the reason, I believe it happens is because when you have 100 men in one camp, that's all that talent being wasted. All that talent is being wasted. Here it is. You got 100-man camp, and you might get, in let's say 3 hours or 4 hours, you might get maybe 10 of those men to speak. The talent of the other 90, what's happening to it? That's why when we have camps here in New York, even though sometimes brothers get a little slick, when we have camp here in New York, we have a 4-man camp, 4 or 5-man camp. That way, instead of having just 1 or 2 camps, you have maybe 10 camps. And then that way, everybody gets a piece of it. Everybody gets to speak. Everybody gets to read. And what does that do? That intensifies the use of that talent instead of just sitting on it. So I believe when the Lord separates men like that, it's because he wants, the talents of those men to be used instead of just sitting there with their hands in their pockets because everybody else is speaking before them. And here it is, they got all this wealth of information in their mind, and they're just sitting on it. That's just my personal belief, which makes sense to me, So that's what this means. It doesn't mean that if a guy leaves a group, then all of a sudden he's not a part of the elect and he's going to be blotted out of the book of life. If you are written in the book of life, you will not be blotted out. And what Yahushua was saying here is because you overcame, you shall be clothed in white, and I will not blot you out. So he's telling you that these are the things that you have to do in order to make it to the end. He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. Now, let's go from there to Revelation chapter 2. And let's start at 2, but the point is around the 5th verse. I know thy works and thy labor and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them which are evil, and thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and hast found them liars. Just like when we go to Matthew chapter 7 and verse 21. He says, not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. Right. Just because you know the name of the Lord don't mean that you're going to enter in. But those that do the work of the Lord. But he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? We prophesied in your name, and in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works. And what did the Lord say? The Lord said, and then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. And this is what Yahushua is reiterating here. You did all these works in my name. You confronted individuals. You proved individuals. You proved dudes to be wrong. You cast out devils. And has borne and has patience, and for my name's sake has labored, and has not fainted. Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. Right, because the first love is what? To teach his word. So if you start slacking up, like if you're diligent for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long, and then all of a sudden you're thinking that, well, I put in 20 years, so now I'm good. I don't have to worry no more. I can start my retirement fund. And you start neglecting the work, guess what? Chances are you're not a part of the elect, or the Lord will have to spank the shit out of you and bring you back in the fold to get your mind right. You know, it says, remember therefore from whence thou art what? Fallen. So if you're doing the work and you fall, guess what? You're not a part of the elect. Now, if you do the work and you fall, but then the Lord has mercy on you to bring you back, that's a special case. But most times, I say like 99% of the time, when the individual falls out, they ain't coming back. It's very rare. It happens that they come back, but it's very rare. You know? So it says, and repent and do the first works. In other words, get off your duff. Stop being lazy. Because if you put that plow down, chances are you ain't going to be able to pick it back up. It says, or else I will come unto thee quickly and will remove thy candlestick out of his place, except thou repent. Right. So let's say the person doesn't repent and the Lord removes his candlestick. What does that mean? That means that they were never a part of the elect. They were never in the book of life to be delivered, to be saved. You see? They were never a part of the elect. They were those men that crept in unawares. It's very easy. But see, what that does, it puts fear in people, which godly fear is good. But when you're trying to put fear in people so that they don't leave you, you know, then that's wrong. Now, godly fear, you better not leave the Lord. You better keep doing the work. That's different. Because godly fear or godly sorrow worketh repentance unto salvation. But that other shit, that's man shit. Because to be honest with you, they used to say that at One West. If you leave through them doors, you don't come back. You're not a part of the elect or something like that. I can't remember exactly how they put it. If you leave this building, but now guess what? That building is still there, but they're no longer there at that building. That building is occupied by other people. So now what? So does that mean that everybody that is not a part of that building anymore is not a part of the elect? This is why the Lord said that the Most High don't dwell in temples made with hands. So now let's go from there. Let's go to Matthew, because he said he will remove that candlestick out of his place, right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 6. And I hit the wrong button, but that's all right. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. The light of the body is the eye. This is why the Lord said, ye are the light of the world, because he is the light of the world, and he passed that torch on to Peter, the apostle Peter, and the rest of the apostles. It says, if therefore thine eye be single, meaning you're focused on one thing, got your mind focused on the prize, which is the kingdom of heaven, thy whole body shall be full of light, right? Because you'll be guided with that guiding light from above, that eye salve to be able to see the road to continue on. But if thine eye be evil, it says thy whole body shall be full of darkness, right? Because here it is, you call yourself doing the work, but then you got half of you in the world and half of you in the truth. Well, I'm just doing this just in case. Like I don't remember who it was. Somebody made a statement. I think it was in the Connecticut school. I don't know if it was Hot Dog Neck. We should call him Hot Dog Neck. And he said that he got a plot of land in case things don't work out or something like that. I can't really remember all the details, but I remember hearing something like that. Well, that's an individual that doesn't believe in this truth. That he's he's in it for just in case. But if just in case that doesn't happen, he got his plan B and plan C. An individual like that, his eye is evil because his mind is not single. And when your mind is not single, it means it's double. It's double-minded. And a double-minded man is what? Unstable in all his ways. It says, but if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness, which is what? The truth being taken away. It says, if therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? This is why Yahushua said, I will remove thy candlestick. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve the Most High and mammon. So that's why the Lord said he will remove your candlestick. Why? Because you were holding on to that temporarily. You were just keeping it warm for somebody else. And these guys don't understand the scriptures like that. And it's not bragging or boasting, but they try to use scriptures for their benefit. Like the Lord said that their fear towards me is taught by the precept of men. This is why which one of you brothers, for the longest since you've been here from the beginning, those of you that go back to 07, 08, 09, 2010 and above, which one of y'all has ever seen us, any of us, beginning with Elder Pastor, any of the bishops, any of the apostles and bishops, or anybody else, give you a set curriculum and say, look, this is how you got to teach it. In other words, give you a precept package. You ain't never seen that. You ain't never going to get that, because we understand that this is not a curriculum. This is not something that's mechanical. This is something that's spiritual, and that the Spirit is what's guiding it. You can have two brothers break down the same thing with different precepts. You might have 5 precepts each, and each one of those precepts might be totally different from each other, but you're breaking down the same exact thing, saying the same exact thing, just using different precepts. That's not how they do. You have to do it the way they do it. You have to follow that precept package. You have to buy that precept package. You have to buy the camp starter kit. You have to buy their garments. Anyways, let's move on. Revelation 13:8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him who? That beast whose deadly wound was healed, which was the Roman Empire coming back through America and her allies, but mainly America, which is the 8th head. It says, right, like the brother KDC put, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They all wrote about, the things of the Messiah, but they wrote a little differently. Some were a little more in depth with it, but others, were a little more brief. But they pretty much told the same thing. So it says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So if your name is not written in the book of life, it doesn't matter if you come into the truth. Eventually, you're going to go and worship this beast. But if you are part of the elect, you will be in that book of life. If your name is written, this is why the Lord told the 70, he said, don't rejoice in that, you have power over these demons by my name, but rejoice in that your names are written in heaven. You see? It says, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. Now let's go to the 17th chapter and the same verse, verse 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not. This is dealing with America, because it was in the vision, but it wasn't at this time. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, which is what? Europe. And go into what? Into perdition, into destruction. Because the whole purpose for this beast coming into power through America, Babylon the Great, is to be destroyed. This was the very place that the Lord was going to bring judgment upon. It says, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder. See, wonder what? After the beast. This is why the Apostle John, when he saw the woman, She must have looked real good because he was like in awe. And the angel had to rebuke him pretty much. Why did you wonder at that? Why did you I forget the word he used. Because she was that alluring. And when you look at the whole concept of America, it's very alluring because pretty much it's set up to where you can do whatever you want as long as you're happy. And this is why you have these other nations fighting around the world. You have these women, especially these fucking women out here in these other nations trying to be like this American hoe over here. And you have these devils, these Amalekites that start all that shit. And a lot of times those women that you see that are at the forefront of these movements of these women in these other nations, they're really Amalekites in disguise. Because that's what the devil does. That whole, women's lib bullshit started here in America by the Rockefellers. And it was set up to separate the family so that the woman could go and work just like the man was working so they could tax both parents, not just one. This is given to us out of the lips of Nick Rockefeller from Aaron Russo. Well, Europe is the bottomless pit because there are land pits, even though that's going into a different subject. Sometimes brothers ask the wrong question at the wrong time, but it's all good. It's all for edification. There's plenty of videos on it, but obviously you must be either a new person or a scoffer. I'll just say it like that. But, I'm just saying it like that because I don't really know who you are. So if you're not, then don't take it the wrong way. But we get a lot of scoffers, so we have to put the disclaimer out there. When you go to the book of what is it? Is that either Sirach or I think it's Second Ezra's? Right here, Second Ezra chapter 5 verse 20. I started a little above that. The point is in 24. Second Ezra chapter 5 verse 23. And said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth, and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen the only one only vine. Right? Because the Lord, he only chooses one thing. No. It's all right, brother. That's why I just had to say the disclaimer. The brother said, we'll never disrespect. I'll look into it. No, it's all right. We're going to go into it real quick. It's a good question, but, sometimes we don't know if people are coming scoffing or not. But don't worry about it, brother. We're going to handle it right now through the Spirit. It says, and said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth, and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen the one only vine. Right? Of all the lands. So what is the subject matter here? Lands of the whole world. Right? Thou hast chosen the what? One pit. So the land of Israel is considered a pit. So the land of Europe, these are all these different lands are pits. Biblically they're known as pits. Why is Europe known as the bottomless pit? Bottomless means that there's no ground, no end, no matter how deep you go down, there's no end to it. And the reason why it's saying bottomless pit or the bottomless land is because it has a lack of mineral resources. Certain things do not grow. This is why they have to import, spices and different foods and things of that nature from other countries, especially countries like India and places that have rich, fertile soil. Because the soil in Europe is not as fertile as the soil in these other places. That's why the Lord calls it the bottomless pit. So I hope, that answered your question. It says, and of all the flowers thereof, one lily. So a land is known as a pit. All right. And like I said, brother, don't take it the wrong way. All right. Now, let's get back. Let me see. Where were we at? Okay, here we go. See, brother, it went right back to where it was supposed to go. It's all spiritual, my brother. So let's go back. Revelation 17:8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, because it was in John's vision, but it wasn't time for America to rule yet. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, which is what? Europe. Now, I know if you look up this word bottomless pit here, it's going to tell you the depths of hell, hell and place where you burn. Or maybe not, because I don't ever remember looking into it. Yeah, it says bottomless pit. Yeah, abyssos, which is where you get the word abyss. Okay, if you go the wrong way, you're gonna be dipped in the abyss. Inside joke. Abusos or abyssos, bottomless, unbounded, the abyss, the pit, the immeasurable depth, and then down here you got the orcus, which show you when they went to go into the so-called abode of the demons and all that. Who they reference? Orcus. Which is what? Nothing but Greek mythology. Orcus, let's see, Orcus. Orcus was a god of the underworld, punisher of the broken oath in Etruscan and Roman mythology. See, mythology. Orcus also goes back to Hades. Hades is another so-called god of the underworld. All right. So this is, and see, they got a picture with a mouth, open mouth. That's the gateway to hell, Orcus, right? This is a joke, man. This is a fucking joke anyways. Anyway, so it says a very deep gulf or chasm in the lowest parts of the earth, used as a common receptacle of the dead and especially as the abode of demons, see? And that's not what this is talking about. That's that Greek mythology, Roman, Etruscan mythology, as we just read about. So the word pit just simply means a plot of land in the scriptures. All right. So the bottomless pit is because they have no natural, no mineral resources and, rich, fertile soil to grow things in. It says, and go into perdition, meaning what? Into destruction. And this word perdition goes into the word Apollos or Apollyon. Something along those names, dealing with Apollo, which means perdition or destruction. So America is going to be set up to be destroyed. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder. See, when you wonder at something, your focus is taken off and you're like in a spell. You're in wonder and amazement. We're supposed to be in wonder and amazement about the truth, about the scriptures. The word there is thaumazo. To wonder at, marvel. Right, because the Apostle John in the vision, he marveled. That's why the scriptures say, if at all possible, they would deceive the very elect. Because they're going to be very deceptive. But we are not ignorant of Satan's devices, as the scriptures say. To be wondered at, to be had in admiration. See? And this is why America is portrayed or described in the Bible as the harlot, with that golden cup in her hand full of abominations, which all the kings of the nations have drunk from. And this is why their peoples, in their lands are actually partaking of what their leaders drank and gave to them. I just wanted to ask for the brother Ebo Zion. Just want to make sure that, the brother got the understanding, because I didn't see any reply after that. So I'm hoping, oh, wow, yes, I actually watched, let me see. Wow, yes, I actually watched a documentary the other day on how Germany and the rest of Europe are dependent on Russia because that's where they get most of all their oil. Damn, that's a good point. Yeah, well, that's a spiritual point, my brother. Let me see, the brother Lion's Truth. Europe has limited deposits of oil and natural gas, which are drilled for energy and fuel. Europe is a pit for sure, yeah. And really, they don't really grow much of anything. They import a lot of their stuff, especially because if you're going to, plant, certain spices and things of that nature and certain foods, you have to have a very rich soil, very rich soil, and they don't have that. They don't have that. So now it says, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. So those that are written in the book of life, which are the elect, are written in there from the foundation of the world. If someone is not written in the book of life, which is the book to salvation, they will not stay. You see? Because they will not have that mineral in them. Which, matter of fact, we're going to get that, but let's read on. When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is, right, which is America. All right, so let's move on. Revelation 19 and 20. It says, and the beast was taken, which the beast represents NATO and the EU, you know, their whole system. It says, and with him the false prophet. The false prophet represents the Roman Catholic Church, because that's, you know, their spiritual guide, so to speak, for lack of better words. Because pretty much the religions of the world pretty much go back, the majority of them go back to the Roman Catholic Church, especially here in America. So it says, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. So why were they deceived? Because they were not a part of this. All right. Let me see what. So we read that. Let's get this. Matthew 24 and 23. Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is the anointed on there, believe it not, for there shall arise false anointeds and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. So if they cannot deceive the very elect, how will they be able how will the Lord blot them out of the book of life if they are part of the elect? See, these guys just say stuff because it sounds good. Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. And the Lord Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem. Who is Jerusalem? The Israelites, the men and women of Israel. You know, because you have elect from among the men of Israel and elect from among the women of Israel. And it says, instead of what? An M-A-R-K upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And this is why when you see certain things that are not right, that are perverse, you know, you get agitated because something in you is not with that. But the majority of people, when they see that, oh, that ain't no big deal, because they don't have that seal in them. Now, when we look up this word M-A-R-K, which is in the Hebrew, by the way, different from the M-A-R-K in the New Testament, because you have several words for M-A-R-K in the New Testament, like the name of Mark, you know, Mark the disciple, you know, so on and so forth. And you have different M-A-R-Ks in the Bible, and they have different Greek names. This is why different Greek words to describe them. This is why you have to go back to the original language to understand what is meant by that particular word, which the IUIC does not like to do. They always got to go to the Paleo Hebrew or the Koine Greek. They could never break anything down into English. Yeah, we break it down into English, but you have to go back to the origins, because in the Apocrypha, in the prologue, it says that the things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. So if that's the case, what should we do? We should go back to the original language and see what it says there to get a better understanding. Simple mathematics. So the word there for M-A-R-K is thawa, right? It says desire, M-A-R-K, you see there, M-A-R-K as what? A sign of exemption from judgment. So if you have this M-A-R-K in you, this thawa, That is the key to exemption from judgment, which means that even if you mess up, like the Apostle Paul, was he not a part of the elect? Did not he say that he's a wretched man, that he commits an iniquity, he commits sins? He doesn't want to. He wants to do the right thing, but he finds himself always doing the wrong thing. And he finds two laws in his member, the one law of faith and the other law of the flesh. And they're constantly fighting and warring against each other. But yet still in all, he's still a part of the elect. And he will not be casted out. He will not be blotted out. Let's see what else we got. All right, so we read that. Now let's go to Revelation 20 and 11. And I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, which is the Most High Yahweh. And there was found no place for them, meaning Esau's earth and Esau's heaven. You know, their whole system, their whole rulership. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before the Most High, and the books were opened. Now, these aren't literal books that will be opened, but the book is the Bible. And the judgment is going to come upon people based off what they did. When we go to Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and 14, for the Most High shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So when this day comes, the people will be judged. The ones that are righteous, that are part of the elect of the nation of Israel, will go into the chariots, and the rest will be destroyed here in America and certain parts of the world. But you'll still have stragglers around, because the whole world ain't going to be destroyed by fire. How do we know that? Because it says that after the destruction, you're going to still have those that don't repent of murders and sorcery and things of that nature. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things. What is the book of life? The Bible. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. It says, and the sea gave up the dead which were in it, meaning the actual sea, because you have actual people that have died in the sea. And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, which shows you that it says, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. But I thought the lake of fire was hell. Bunch of nonsense. So, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. Meaning, you know, this whole system plus the actual, because when the destruction comes, the elect of the nation of Israel will be changed. And there will be no more death among the Israelites. Oh, death, where is thy sting? 1 Corinthians 15. This is the second death, meaning what? The lake of fire. The first death was the flood. It says, and whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire, was destroyed. Bottom line. But if you are part of the elect, you will be in the book of life. And the Lord is not going to blot you out. That's why he said in Revelation 3, it says, he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life. Why? Because he is a part of the elect. Come on, man. So Revelation 21 and 24, and the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, meaning the Israelite foreigners, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it, because these nations will bring their riches to us. You can read Isaiah 60 for that. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. Why? Because of the glory of the Lord that's going to be there. Doesn't mean that their sun and the moon ain't going to come up anymore, you know, because the sun and the moon are there perpetual. The stars are there perpetually. That's what the Lord set them up for. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it, and there shall in no wise enter it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abominations or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. You see? So the elect will not be blotted out of the book. The scriptures say, in whose mouth was no guile. Revelation 22:18. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto these things, the Most High shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. Right, because if you add to it, you're going to get judged. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, the Most High shall take away his part out of the book of life. Why? Because he didn't do what he was supposed to. But then again, he did do what he was supposed to. Before we go back to that, let's go to 1 Peter, is that? 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, I start at 7. Unto you therefore which believe he is precious, but unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. And a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, meaning Yahushua is that stone. And those that didn't accept him were the ones that stumbled. They stumbled at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. You see? So you have those that were elected to do the right thing, to be the elect, to be saved, and you have those that have been elected to be destroyed. That's why he says here, if you add to the words, the Most High shall take his part out of the book of life, which is the Bible. In other words, you're not going to be saved. Those are the men crept in unawares, as we read before. Those are the men that went out from us because they were not of us. In other words, they stopped teaching the truth. They started changing the truth. Why? Because they were men crept in unawares. But the elect will not suffer that fate. It says, the Most High shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book. Pretty much. Why? Because you took away from the word. It doesn't say if you were part of the elect, you were going to be removed out of the book of life. It said if you take away from the word of the book of the life. It doesn't say if you fall out of IUIC that you're not going to be saved, that you're going to be blotted out. Oh, another nigga off the list. These are delusions of grandeur that these guys be having. And we've used that term before, which they had in that video, but we've used that term before. We've used megalomaniac, Elder Apostle Gabar. We've used narcissist. These are all synonyms for Nate. So that's pretty much it. The ones written in the book of life are secure. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Until the next time I say, Shalom.